It is a place that would serve as Vlad's sanctuary in a coming campaign of terror. "1,500 feet above the river Arges, on a perilously steep mountain, lie the ruins of an ancient fortress called Castle Panari. This is the real Castle Dracula. The castle's site was key. On the edge of Vlad Dracula's own realm of Wallachia, the castle also bordered the mountainous territory of Transylvania. Even today, it remains a remote and forbidding place. And the investigators need to climb 1,480 steps just to get to it. Within these ruins lie remarkable archaeological clues which will help the investigators bring the castle back to life. For a prince bent on achieving absolute power, this was a prime strategic location.
And you see here to the south, we have Vlad's lands, his Wallachia. And of course, 50 miles beyond those mountains, you have Târgovește, his very own capital city. But of equal importance, and over here to the north, you have Transylvania. Transylvania, which of course included a couple of Vlad's strongholds. And equally importantly, this was the prime position from which he could deal with those pesky Transylvanian Saxons.
Transylvania is home to the rich Saxon merchants whose wheeling and dealing threatens Vlad Dracula's grip on power. Since he needs to act swiftly in building the castle, he resorts to unconventional techniques and slave labor. Construction begins around a watchtower dating back to the time of his grandfather. But Vlad envisages something far greater. A fortress that will not just occupy the whole summit of Panari, but enlarge it. Clues to how he did it are encoded in the ruined walls that still surround the castle. They give it its strange two-tone appearance, with red brick sitting on top of a gray stone base.
It is a very, very unusual structure because of the combination of the stone and the brick. I would have expected here to have seen the whole thing constructed in stone. Perhaps it was actually easier to build in brick. It certainly would have been an awful lot quicker.
Though they stand on a narrow mountain summit, these walls are a staggering 9 feet thick. This was achieved by using the Byzantine construction method.
The Byzantine style was first of all to build the 2 external walls in brick, and then to infill those walls with rubble. The combination of the outer wall, the inner core, and the inner wall together make this an absolutely solid structure.
What held the walls together was also the secret of the castle's survival in an area that was actually an earthquake zone. They used lime mortar.
This is what lime, in its putty form, actually looks like. It's like a very rich whipped cream, effectively. But because it's lime, it won't completely set in this sort of situation, and therefore it allows flexibility. It allows the walls to move, which of course is going to be very useful in an earthquake situation. We won't suffer severe cracks and damage in the same way that you would if you were to use cement.
Though they have been struck by numerous violent earthquakes, many of Castle Dracula's walls still stand today. They were constructed by slave labor, the nobles that had been spared from impalement during the Easter massacre at Târgovește. Forced marched to Panari, they were now to suffer a far longer, lingering death.
Wallachian chronicles report that these men and women worked so hard, they worked until their clothes fell off. They were naked, quite literally.
But the castle wasn't built just by slaves. One ingenious piece of engineering proves that master craftsmen must have been involved. The castle's roofs gather rainfall into the cistern.
It's constructed in stone, which is it's called raveting. And basically, it's cutting the angles of the stone so that the next stone sits in exactly against this one. But what this actually shows is that when this was constructed, whoever was involved in the engineering side of things really understood the whole process of stone construction, of what was needed to hold water for a castle of this size and quality.
Everything needed to build Castle Dracula was available in the river valley below. There was sand for mortar, gravel and small rocks for the Byzantine wall filler. There were also sturdy river stones that formed the castle's base. Even the bricks were fired and made locally. This was the spectacular result. When it was finished, the castle filled the entire summit, approximately 32 feet wide by 180 feet long. An eagle's nest, Dracula's castle offered excellent security and the control of a key strategic pass between the mountains. But just over the border in Transylvania, the troublesome Saxon merchants were hatching a conspiracy against him. To protect their profits, they were supporting a rival claimant to Vlad's throne.
You could argue that this castle provided Vlad with the essential springboard via which he could go and deal with the Transylvanian Saxons. He made them realize that if they were going to have their commercial ways, they were first and foremost going to do what he said.
A major confrontation lay ahead. Vlad Dracula would need all his cunning to overcome the defenses of one of the best fortified towns in all Europe. He would exact a terrible revenge. German chronicles report that in 1459, Vlad Dracula, the real-life Romanian prince, embarked on a campaign of terror. It was so savage that the name of Dracula would never be forgotten. Rallying his troops at Bran Castle, he marched into Transylvania. Saxon merchants were plotting to overthrow him. He intended to punish them. Their base was in Brasov. Concealed within the modern-day city are the fortifications of what was medieval Transylvania's richest and most well-defended town.
The Saxons had been siding with Vlad's enemies. They were untrustworthy and they were foreign anyway, so in Vlad's book, that's fair deal.
Today, the picturesque town gives few clues to the bloody events that unfolded here 5.5 centuries ago. Vlad's attack on Brasov was not easy. The city's military defenses were formidable. A huge wall, nearly 14 feet thick in some places, ran around the entire Saxon city. There were bastions at regular intervals.